But that kind of segues us to the next question. What are some of the most common issues or concerns that you encounter during home inspections, and how do you address them? What are the red flags buyers should be looking for during inspections?
Well, I really think, kind of like Willis was talking about, like your bigger ticket items. So what's your roof look like? How old is it? You're same with your HVAC system, age of your HVAC, age of your hot water heater, your foundation conditions. Those are your big things. If I was somewhat handy, I could tackle probably a leak underneath the sink. I could tackle resetting a toilet. I'd have to be extremely handy and some experience to replace a roof or to even patch a roof or to fix a foundation or something. I mean, these are big ticket things because you need a professional to do it. There are plumbing issues, obviously, and some small electrical stuff that you could handle on your own, but there's sometimes you need the professionals for. So for us, anything that's like $500 and more for a repair, that's a big ticket item.
Okay.
And maybe that fluctuates a little bit now since things are a little bit more expensive. Yeah. But that's kind of how we look at it. But everybody's different, So it's such a personal choice when you're buying a house, because I don't know what you know, I don't know who you know. I always give this example. My best friend was buying a house. It had an electrical panel that had some known issues to it. So, I called it out, told him about the panel. And again, this is a while back when he could negotiate, so he did his thing. And so I asked him, I said, what'd you decide on? And he's like, I'm going to have this, this, and this. I was like, what about that electrical panel? He goes, my dad's a master electrician. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, and so he was going to handle it. And I'm like, great. I just didn't want him to miss that.
Right.
But he already had it handled because he knew.
Right.
So, are you a plumber? Are you an HVAC guy? You know those things. Right. I don't know those things. So we just present it all and put it out there, and you have to filter it. Now, we can help. It's like, well, what if I don't fix this, or what is this causing? And if it's a leak or you got a gap or a crack or something, that's like, well, moisture can get in there, and we can explain some of those things logically and what that function would look like. But you just be upfront with them and tell them what you see. So those are my big things. It would be your roof, HVAC, water heater, foundation.
I know a lot of times with my buyers, particularly my first-time home buyers, what I always tell them, kind of like what you were saying, Willis, with the cosmetic, let's not buy a house where there's two major items that have to be done. Like, if this is your first home, our strategy should be that this is 5 to 7 years maybe. And when that 5 to 7 years is up, you don't have to do anything major when you leave, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So let's not get a house where it needs a new HVAC and a new roof. Right. Or let's not do a new house where it needs a sewer line and is a ton of wood rot on the outside. Sure. Let's get a house where if there's one major thing you might have to look out for, at least everything else you can come in and enjoy your home. Yeah. Like no one wants to have used most of their nest egg. Even if you get a grant or something, there's a learning curve to being a new homeowner. And always, like your first year, if your thermostat goes out, you like, why did I buy a house? Right. Why did I buy a house? And it's like, okay, baby, that's just your thermostat. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, why don't you get into a home that even if you can grow into it or you want to add a little character, and maybe it needs a little polishing, you're not having to come in and do this, do that, do that. One thing I always say to my buyers, because I'm truly speaking from experience, is my HVAC I knew was going out my first year. It was original. My house was built in 1982. I bought it in 2017. Okay. So I knew the HVAC was going out. I had planned for it, but also I need all new siding right now. Right. So if anyone wants to start a GoFundMe for my new siding, but like the wood rot is like ridiculous on my home. So I have two major things. And then I've also wanted to do all kind of upgrading. And I'm like, had I bought a home where I didn't need to do all of that, if I wanted to sell it right now, I could have had like a house that I could get a whole bunch of equity for and not be using a lot of my money that I earned to make my house livable, Yeah.
And it's tough because like a new hot water heater, that's not sexy. Like you just spent, I don't know, a couple $100 to $1,000 or how much ever on a water heater. but that's not as pretty as a cool, nice new granite countertops
Right.
or a backsplash.
Those are the things people don't see.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly. But
what did I put
important.
my money into? It's like you can't physically see it every day,
Right.
Because it's not like you go into the space where the storage space where it's located.
Right.
So you're not walking in there looking at it like, I did good.
And when your friends come over, they're not like,
Like,
feeling
good
your hot
job.
water heater.
Or they're not giving you a high five. Like, good
And
job on this.
I'll tell you
Like,
what else is not sexy. Having cute new backsplash, but your water heater is about to go out.
Yeah.
Either,
Yeah.
You know.
And that's
for sure.
That's another big thing is, like I said, it's the priorities that go into it. And I think, like I said, especially with your home inspectors, at least them telling you so that way you can game plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Because certain buyers have every one of them have different financial
Sure.
situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So some people are like, hey, I'm okay. This is my house. I'm okay with doing these things.
Yeah.
And then some people have that thought where, okay, so I know if I do these upgrades, then when I go to sell it, I'll make my money on the back end.
Right.
So it's an investment for them. So they feel okay with doing certain things. Now, like Sheridan said, you don't want to have to come in and start replacing all the big stuff.
Right.
'Cause I'm like, what are you doing at that point? Like, you could have easily, the money you put into it, you could have just bought something and just let it naturally appreciate.
And that learning curve when you do buy a new home is something. It's like, okay, you have your home warranty, and I'll say this: a lot of times, first-time home buyers are worried about repairs and stuff because of money. But sometimes the things you need to be worried about is not knowing how to address it. Like if I say the grading is low on the home right now, most buyers don't even know what that means.
Derek, I want you to actually, I'm going to tap in.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you, obviously, you'll put that in the report
Sure.
to be able to fix grading and things like that. I want you to explain, what does that mean to a lot of people?
Yeah, so when you have your foundation wall and your soil on the outside, I'm going to try not to bump our mic, you want the soil to slope away from the foundation. If it's going towards it, that's going to put more water and more pressure. A gallon of water is 8 pounds. So if you got how many ever gallons worth of rain and runoff from the roof, and if your downspouts aren't routed far away, that's more pressure that's being pushed up against the house. So for proper drainage, you want a 1/4 inch drop per linear foot. So every foot, it's going to drop another 1/4 inch. So it's all sloping away from the house.
And it's crazy that you said it, because a lot of times, and I didn't know this obviously before getting into, real estate and really knowing that a lot of times foundation issues are really caused by poor drainage.
Most of the time.
Like 90% is like, you can literally see the poor drainage there. And like I said, the extensions on the gutters, those things are actually fairly cheap at Home Depot.
Right.
To go buy them and literally stick them on the end of the
And see, that's my
and
point.
push it away.
It could be a simple fix, but maybe as a new homeowner, you just didn't even know.
Right.
So like now you didn't cause this big problem for yourself.
Because foundation repair is not cheap.
No, it's not.
I mean, and it depends on the level. You can get some that are just a simple, epoxy. You can, kind of seal that crack. But if you actually have to start digging in and putting piers, those piers are about $1,500 a piece.
Yep.
Trust me, I know. I just got a
Hydro
quote.
wall.
I just got a quote on mine because I'm about to redo my whole siding and redo my my foundation on the outside, because I seen like a crack or two, and I noticed it when I bought it. But I'm like, on the inside, I have a sump pump, so it's not really a big deal. The drainage is fine and things like that. But I'm like, let me have somebody come out. And they looked at it and they're like, yeah, you need like 5 piers. And they was like, and then we need to go down to the, the bedrock.
Bedrock,
Then we need to go down to the bedrock, which is digging deep down to be able to secure it. But quoted me $8,000 for just the foundation.
Yeah.
And that's just 5 piers on the outside.
Right.
And so I'm like, I have a good sized house. I'm like, now that made me a little,
So
little nervous. I'm like, well, hold on.
You bought your home, that comes up because you didn't know to know. I mean, you a professional, but you didn't know to know, and you were like, okay, well, I'm willing to take on this. I'm willing to take on that. I'm willing to take on this. But it's like now, okay, you've been there like a year now.
2.
Okay, 2, whatever. So and now this major cost that you do need to,
But yeah,
save up
and that's
for.
the thing is, like, I knew what I was walking into. And that's the thing, like I said, because I knew that, it didn't shock me to get that type of quote.
Right.
And also financially, thank God, we sold a couple houses where we can be able to afford that stuff.
Right.
Because there are some people that barely got into the house.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the statistic is most people don't have $500 in their savings for an emergency.
Right. I believe it.
So you get a foundation, quote of $8,000 on just literally 5 piers on the outside of the house.
Right.
That's not anything inside. And so it's like $8,000 here, because I'm like, my siding I'm about to put on is almost $10,000.
And y'all know, okay, I always bring up the credit. I always bring up the credit.
There she go.
I stand by what I say. Have at least a 620 minimum, you know. But okay, you barely got over the edge. Let's just say in an example, you got you win one of the lenders that let you do the 580. You barely had the money to close this and that. And then now also in your mind, because you going to get it together, you okay with taking on projects. You just starting in the red. That's why I'm a big advocate for on your first home, be able to qualify for a grant. Not just down payment assistance, but a grant, which usually is at least a 620 credit score. And don't buy a home that when Deric comes in, he didn't went over these items with you, and you just ignored them because you wanted the house so bad. Don't be so desperate that now you didn't cause a headache for yourself and may not even have equity when you go to sell it, because we don't know what the market's going to do in 5 years.
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing that people tell me. Well, what do you think the market's going to do? I'm like, shit, if I knew that, I'd be playing the lottery.
Can you imagine if we would have knew what 2020 was going to do in 18?
Oh, man, like that.
I would have tried to get so many investment
I'd have bought
properties.
all the houses.
And it's so crazy, like I said, because the equity, because I knew, because I'm in this space in the real estate, so I knew like what my house, was going to do. And I bought it in 2021. I owner financed it in 2022. I officially closed on it in that regards here. And so I bought it where the neighborhood hadn't really seen that big jump.
Yeah.
And so I came in kind of mid to low in the area, around 210. And now I'm getting offers from people that was like, hey, we'll offer you $325 for your house. Yeah. Officially a year later, I'm like, no, I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
I'm like, because to be able to buy the type of house that I have, I would have to spend like $600,000-700,000 in most areas to get the size and space and bedroom. I'm like, no, I knew I was making a great financial investment. I knew I would have to do some work, but having the planning to do it and not just jumping head first into it, I knew that eventually I was going to have to put some work into the side, and it was the same way. Yeah. I knew I wanted a new deck. I know what that's going to cost. I budgeted these things out, but I also know that return on my investment is going to be there eventually whenever I do decide to sell.
And what you just said, bringing it back to Deric, or just inspections in general, going into it knowing. Because when it comes to inspections, it's not pass or fail.
Correct.
It's not pass or fail.
That's the thing there, because people are like, did it pass inspection? Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Like you said, even the only thing that really is pass or fail is when you get an appraisal.
Right. But that's what I'm saying.
And that's not his job. His job is not to appraise and tell you what it's worth.
Right.
It's not his job is not to tell you if this is a good buy or not.
Right.
That's not his job. His job is being impartial, letting you know the facts that are wrong with the property.
So you can know how
to approach it and see if you're going forward or not. If you still want
to get into it.
Right.
You know, is this house in a condition that I feel comfortable enough to take it on to live here with my family, number one. But let's just say, this is what I always tell buyers too. Let's just say something happens to one of y'all. You know, that's why I don't believe in forever homes. There's no such thing as forever. Let's just say something happens. Someone gets sick. Someone pass away. You know, a divorce or whatever. And now you got to sell this home 2 years later. Did you take on more than what you can chew? You want to be sure that the home is in a condition that at any point you need to sell it. You can resell it without breaking even or walking away and owing money at the closing table as the seller.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing too. Like I said, because I've had clients who, when we sit down, always make sure, is this a good investment? Mm-hmm. This ain't where you going out to pasture to die in. You know, we want to also make sure if something happens also too, like I said, going back to finding an expert and a realtor who can be able to help you with planning is because, God forbid something happened to me, can my wife take care of this on her own? You know, I don't want that burden on her, like, well, we were both having to be able to go 50-50 on these things here. Yeah. Exactly. And then now she can't live the custom lifestyle. Right. That's why you get life insurance as well, you know, to be able to help cover those things and take care of those things as well. And that's a big thing, like I said, on just the education that ties into everything that we do in real estate. Yep. Not only just the home buying, but after buying process. You know, like I said, doing the process with you with just the constant knowledge and education part of what we do. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's a huge thing, is because it's not just, oh, this is a nice house, I want it. Right. No, it's a lot of steps and a lot of processes that go into, is this a good buy? Mm-hmm. You know, and that's a big thing that I try to preach, and Sheridan does this a lot as well, and we have powwows all the time. I'm not a yes man.
Right.
Deric is not going to get into this house and say, "Oh, this is a great house."
This is what I would give Deric. He has the best way of giving you the ugly news, but giving you silver lining.
Yeah.
Like,
glass half full.
Yeah.
Huh?
Glass half full.
Glass half
Yeah,
full.
definitely. But like he's not there to. Can you give us? Okay, so this is gonna segue us a little bit, but can you give us an example of like a story, if you can share, where you had to explain to somebody this is major, and like maybe how they received it, or
a lot of times, like with roofs, if you have like some severe hail damage or there's missing shingles or something like that, that's not something you want to just leave unaddressed. Big ticket item, right? So we can talk about it, and we can see what the different options are. Do you have that opportunity to negotiate? Can you go back to your seller and say, hey, the inspector saw hail damage. We're going to have a roofer come out, or can you have a roofer come out to see? Maybe it can be claimed on your insurance or something like that. Those are some options. Everything is so personal. It's tough. I'm trying to think of a good one.
I know I kind of put you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, replacing like your drain stack, like cast iron drain lines. That's one that we see. That's often where you can see a crack in it, where it's like, what do we do? It's not leaking tremendously, but it's trickling down the outside, and what's coming down that I don't want on the outside of the pipe. I want it on the inside of the pipe. So it's got to be replaced. Cast iron's that's the nature of the beast. Eventually, it's going to die out, and you have to replace it. It's going to crack or corrode or choke down on the inside. And with those cracks, it's like, okay, so the material itself is pretty inexpensive. I mean, we can probably replace this whole stack for $200 worth of material, something like that. But it's your labor, so we need to find a plumber, not we.
Right.
We're
recommending you find a plumber.
Right. We're going to recommend you find a plumber, but someone that's going to do good work for a reasonable dollar amount, labor fees, stuff like that. And it's not a big task. It's not a big job, but someone has to do it that knows what they're doing.
So basically explaining to them, hey, this is how you can remediate this issue, or this is the direction to go in.
Right.
So how do you guys, and when I say you guys, I just mean inspection companies, how do you ensure that your inspections are thorough and accurate?
I know for us, and again, I can't speak for the other companies, but like one thing we do is we make sure we stay on a pattern. So like when we go in the house, we always start in the kitchen. That gives us a kind of a good gathering spot where, we can come in with the agent and the buyer, and everybody can kind of get together, and I can explain what I do. And if it's a first time,
kitchen is the heart of the home.
It is. It's my favorite room of the house.
That's where everybody gathers. So,
it
makes
is.
sense.
And usually you'll have some chairs, maybe with a kitchen table or a bar.
I get comfortable at inspections.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna be here for 3 hours.
We're gonna be here a while, right?
I'm gonna get comfortable.
So you can start there.
I don't like sitting on people's furniture.
I ain't standing up for 3 hours, so hey, you gotta figure it out.
But then we'll start a pattern. So we do, we'll start at the sink. We work our way around the whole kitchen. Then we decide where we're going next. Kind of depends on the layout. But you follow that wall all the way around. So you're checking an outlet, opening a window, checking an outlet, opening the door, close the door. So everything you do, you don't miss anything. And if someone comes up and says, hey, can you come look at this real quick? Sometimes it might be, give me just a second, let me finish this room. Or if I'm at this window, I open and close the window. Now I know I've done that. And I know when I come back, that's my starting point.
Right.
And so you just make your way. You stay on your pattern. You clear every single room before you leave it. That's just how we do it. Just very thorough with everything we do. We do a lot of training, and we have our own classroom and everything. So we do a lot of hands-on. We just had a big meeting with all the guys the other day, just kind of going over different things or different building practices that have changed and stuff. So
you guys actually train other inspectors?
Yeah. Like if you want to be a home inspector, you can come to our school and we could.
Oh, you got a
I
school
still want to get up on the roof though.
Yeah,
I do want to get up there.
I ain't getting
I'll
up
get you
on
on
the
a roof.
No.
It's flat as a roof.
We can do an earth contact so you can crawl up in the backyard.
Right.
Well, Deric, have her up there and then let me come and film.
There we go.
In case we need some extra unless we got some extra content for the channel.
Because I'm going to need like 3 people to hold the ladder.
I'm not getting up on no
I used to work on ladders at Bed Bath & Beyond.
Oh, no.
It's different.
Yeah, I'm not getting up on nobody's roof. I ain't.
Well, you know those room in the bags?
Yeah.
Those are 80 pounds. We had to carry those up and down the ladder. Right. So I can get up on a roof.
Yeah, you can.
I worked at Bed Bath & Beyond.
We'll get up there.
So let me ask you this. How many inspectors does your company currently employ?
We have 5.
5
inspectors.
Full-time dedicated at the company.
Yep.
Okay, and then you guys service both Kansas and Missouri?
Yes.
How far out do you guys, in case people are watching and they want to book with you, is it outside of your
So
warehouse?
we'll go all the way up north, like Platte City. So we'll go all the way up that direction. We'll go out past Pleasant Hill and Harrisonville and out that direction. Heading out east, I did Sedalia the other day, which is a drive.
That's all. Look, I'm like,
yeah.
No, thank you.
And then Kansas is kind of
past Knob-Nostin.
Yeah, we've been out there.
I went to school in a bird.
There you go.
No, I'm not going out that way.
Drop in.
Kansas is a little bit different. It's not as directional, So, but we hit quite a ways out in Kansas too,
Nice.
And we'll pretty much go anywhere if you want to pay a little bit extra. I had an agent that really wanted me to go to Springfield for him, so I went to Springfield.
Okay,
cost a little bit extra, but he's like, I don't trust anybody else out here.
Yeah.
And so I said, fair enough, I can do it.
It's like a good barber. You ain't gonna cheat on your home inspector,
It is.
because there's also, like I said, it's a certain level of quality that we expect, especially with our business. Like, if my name is behind this, there's only certain people I trust.
That's for sure.
That can get this done, and I know that I don't have to question.
Right.
Was this done correctly? I stand behind it in that regards here. Because there are other companies out there and things like that. Let me ask you this: what really separates you and your company from a lot of the other competitors? Because it feels like everybody can be a home inspector, just like everybody can do real estate.
Exactly.
So, do you have to be licensed to be a home inspector?
No, not in Missouri and Kansas. You don't. There's no licensure in Missouri and Kansas. There are national certifications that we have. But there's no licensure.
Oh, so I could go be a home inspector tomorrow?
You could.
Okay.
You'd probably get sued.
Be prepared for it. Deric better watch out because I'm coming for him. But I'm not getting on no roofs.
That's what Sheridan's for.
Yeah, exactly. See?
Yeah.
Deric, you better watch out, bro. I'm just saying, Homestead better be on the map.
Right. No, I think for us, it's our experience. We've been around, like I said, for over 30 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we've seen a lot. We've been through the ups and downs and the changes. We've learned. So like when I came on 10 years ago, I wasn't starting from scratch. I was starting with 20 years of experience.
Gotcha.
So we'd sit down in class and they'd say, okay, well, here's a defect. How do you explain that? And I'd explain it. They're like, not like that. Let's try this again. So I'm getting to learn from their bumps and bruises of how they used to do it. John, so my business partner, Justin, his dad started the company.
Okay.
And so John was paper reports, 3 pages long, 4 pages long. And that was a home inspection.
Oh.
It just checked it. Good, not so good.
Yeah,
Here
you give me something like that, and I'm no,
exactly.
take that back.
Exactly.
It ain't thorough enough.
But that's what a home inspection was.
Yeah.
We didn't start really doing home inspections until the 80s in Missouri area. So, so learning from that experience puts us way ahead of the game. And that's all we do. We didn't come from a different background of I don't know, like I was I was a teacher, or I was a train conductor or whatever, and I want to get into home inspection. So like we come with 30 years of home inspection training. For a long time, not maybe a long time, for a little while, the trend for home inspectors to market themselves was, I've done 5,000 inspections. It's like, well, how long have you been in business? So you start looking at this, and maybe they used to be a claims adjuster for State Farm. And every roof they look at, they would count that as an inspection. And you might look at 10. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Or they would
How you doing that?
Or they would say stuff like this, like, they'd give a big number, and they would say, well, a home inspection is 1, a termite inspection is 2.
No, it ain't.
Right.
That's all
and
in the same.
So you get done with with one house, and you've just done 4 inspections. It's like, no, now you're cooking the books. Like, that's not legit.
Yeah.
Like, everything we do is above board. Like, if we're going to tell you numbers, it's going to be straight numbers. There's no hiding it. There's no, like, our prices are all on our website because we're not going to lie. It's not less expensive for you and more expensive for you. It's not,
You sure?
I
just said I'm going into business with him, so I'm thinking he might cut the prices a little bit and jack them up for me.
And we would rather, people ask us all the time, like, why are you training your competitors? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I'd rather us all compete on the same level of knowledge. It's just like a real estate agent. Like, you'd rather have real estate agents doing it right. Like, if you're going to co-op with Sheridan, you want Sheridan to be on top of it. You want her to answer emails.
Yeah. Sheridan ain't got no issue. I ain't got no issue with Sheridan.
Right. But
some of y'all.
I won't
That's
even
a whole
go
other
there.
podcast. Whole other podcast.
But then you guys can compete on different levels.
Yeah.
Maybe I specialize a little bit more in this, or I'm better with clients that are like this, or I'm doing, and that's how we want to do it. Like, let's all be good home inspectors, and let's compete on a different level. Like, just maybe how we describe things, or how our report is written, things that are not so technical. Because the thing I hate the most is when I show up to an inspection and someone's like, "Yeah, I had a home inspection on my last house and it was horrible. Let's see what you do." It's like, come on, it's like,
oh, you behind
that?
But now you gotta prove yourself.
See,
but
I'm
that's
happy
like
to
what
do
agents.
it.
But that's like what agents
for
do.
sure.
Like, because they've had a horrible buying experience,
Yeah.
or their last agent was so. I'm like, bro, like my work will speak for itself.
Yep.
In that regard, so because I'm confident in who I am,
For sure.
and how I conduct business, to where you'll understand, like, not all realtors are created equal,
Right.
just like home inspectors. Like, so I do have another question. I know Sheridan has her questions too.
No, I'm kind of to the end.
But for me, I did want to know, like, because you said that you kind of train your competitors and things like that, what type of rigorous training course do you guys put them through, so that way they can go out and kind of, because they're not obviously going to have the knowledge you do.
Right.
The only experience is experience.
Yep, absolutely.
So, I can tell you everything even about real estate and what I do, but until you get in the field,
Right.
in that regards here, but what does that typically look like for somebody who might be thinking about that?
Yeah, so we offer an 80-hour course. So it's 80 clock hours in the classroom. So we're going through every single system, with videos and slides and PowerPoints. And in our classroom, we actually have a bunch of hands-on equipment, I guess. Like, we've got furnaces, we've got a whole plumbing display.
Y'all official with y'all training.
Yeah,
okay, I thought it was just like more so.
He said we can go be inspectors.
Yeah, like
no,
tomorrow,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, I thought he was just like giving me like paperwork and like the look over.
Let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
That was what I was gonna say. So I started working with Homestead on accident. I had a home inspector that I would never recommend now, knowing what I know about real estate and stuff. No.
No, I'm saying I've had.
Oh, okay. I thought you was talking about a particular one.
No.
Anyway,
I ain't gonna drop no names yet. I ain't gonna drop none yet.
So a client of mine hired Homestead, and I was like, man, I told him to go with this dude, whatever. And ever since then, I've always worked with Homestead. I've worked with your company, Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with them a few times too. No problem there. But like like we said,
you like who you like, and that's fine.
That we prefer. And so one thing that I can say, the reason why I've always enjoyed Homestead is because, and you explaining that further, because see, I didn't even know it was on that level either.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of made more sense to me. I have learned so much just from watching them.
Yeah.
And the way that they explain it to a buyer and the way they break it down, it makes you not feel like you're dumb. It makes you not feel uncomfortable to ask more questions so that you do get understanding. And they explain it in a way that is problem solve driven. So knowing that you teach the class the way you do, I'm like, you know me. I be like, I'm not advising, but I'm like, he's probably gonna tell you your drainage right here is not correct, and your expansion tank is not properly
supported.
And I'm just like, dang, I sound like an inspector. Let me shut up. Let me stay in my lane.
But that's what we want. Like, we would never expect a real estate agent to be an inspector.
Exactly.
Or we're never going to come out and be like, I can't believe you didn't see this when you were showing this. But if you can be educated enough that when you go and you're showing houses, you can have an idea of what's going on.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Saving your time, it's saving the client's time, it's saving money. And we want to be a part of your team where, like I said, when I go and talk to some of Sheridan's agents, I'm going to talk Wednesday. I've got a meeting, a presentation for like another team, and I want to teach them what to look for. So this is what we consider to be an abnormal crack. So if you're walking through and you see it, it's like, okay, well, maybe you take a picture of it and say, well, I'm going to send this to Deric and see what he says. And obviously I'm not there, so I'll give you a guess best I can. But if you can say, well, we might want to have a structural engineer come out the same day we do a home inspection, or maybe even before. Maybe even like, you write the contract today, maybe structural engineer comes out tomorrow or the next day. He gives it the green light or gives something that's workable. Then the home inspector is already scheduled for the next day. Or you can call and cancel and be like, no, he said $20,000. We're out for that repair, or something.
I will definitely say I feel like that has helped my business because I'm not an inspector. I say that all the time. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an inspector. But I have definitely learned a lot from you guys to the point where I'm in a home with a buyer. I'm like, y'all, I'm be honest with you. I have the feeling, because I've seen my inspector say this before, that maybe we should keep looking. Maybe this is not the one. If you love it, I support it. We can move forward. But I'm telling you. And then, like, okay, you and I had one recently where I said to him, I said, he's going to say this, he's going to say that. And then you did. Yeah. And I warned him before. I was like, maybe we should call out a structural engineer before you even, or at least with the inspector. Sure. Yep. They didn't do that. That was on them, and they're still moving forward with the home. They're happy about it. But when you were there, you educated them on what they could expect in the future, and they were willing to take it on, and that's their personal choice.
Right. And I think that's a huge thing, just because, like, even with me, and like I said, I've never personally used you, and I've heard of you in Homestead in that regards here, and the buyer has used you, one of my previous buyers, but they just knew of you and they want to, which, like I said, it's always your choice on whoever you want to use. Absolutely. We don't force you to use anybody you don't want to use. But we do have suggestions in that regards here, and that's another big thing too. So for me, like Sheridan was saying, I've been through enough home inspections to where I can pop it out as soon as I see it. Yeah. When we walk through the house, hey, this is gone, this here. But it's the education process, like I said. It's not just coming out doing it, and then now we don't know, like, I don't know. Like, when we go through these houses in the show, I'm like, I point this out. I'm like, you're going to call this out, this receptacle next to the sink is not GFCI protected. Right? Yeah. I was like, this is going to get called out, not a big thing. I was like, we get that swapped out. I'm like, oh, this roof here is, I could stand back and eyeball a roof, and I'm looking at it, and it's doing a wave up there. I'm like, this roof is a little wavy. I'm like, it's going to get called out. Yeah. And certain things like that, because we've been through, like I said, this process more than enough. And the home inspectors, like I said, they don't get the credit. Because really, if you want me to be 100% with you, you guys will make or break a deal.
That's true.
You guys will make or break a deal.
For sure.
And like I said, because, like I said, it's really dependent on that home inspector. Yeah. Because if you come and give the news like, hey, guys, and I'm already like,
I got some really bad news for you.
Me and like the buyer be walking around doing measurements or something, because like I'll just be like, can you just please go measure something, like let them work. But me and him be downstairs, and he's like, did you see that? I'm like,
yeah. Well, and you always have
my home inspector texts me while I'm upstairs. He's like, hey, I need you to come here. I'm like, hey guys, I'll be right back. I'm like, let me just run downstairs real quick. I was like, let me make sure we're good. I'm like, but he's giving me the heads up.
Did you see that fence outside?
Yeah. Hey, go have the kids play outside. Get used to it. Like,
well, and you never want your inspector, and I'm not saying you do, but you never want your inspector to not tell the client anything.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And integrity first.
I kind of joke that, like, we're one of the few jobs. My whole job is just to be honest.
Right.
I'm just there to tell you everything I see. There's nothing. It doesn't benefit me one bit to pull punches or to hide a defect or not tell you about something. It just doesn't. That doesn't do me. Yeah, doesn't do me any good.
I like that word. Yeah, material. Which obviously in the play on that material defect, it is absolutely your job to let them know.
Absolutely.
Because legally, we'll jump into something like that. If you know about it and you don't disclose it, because that can be the decision that makes or break this deal. And if you're just trying to be easy on them and like, hey, I'm just not going to tell them this so it goes through, and they find out you knew, now legally you're liable for whatever can happen.
Absolutely.
Me and Deric have a story. I'm not going to get into real detail, but we have a story.
Oh, we got lots of stories.
Yeah. Hold on. We're about to get into some juicy stuff.
Listen,